I was always a storyteller, I think. I was a kid who always had a book in my hand and 3 on my night table. I was the kid who had a blanket over my head and a flashlight at night, staying up way past bedtime to read. I loved stories. I loved disappearing into stories, and I loved creating my own. And that hasn't really changed. I still read a lot, and I just have this passion and drive to tell stories. And I think all authors would probably say that we just have these stories that we really want to tell. And I think that's how I became an author of books for kids especially. There's just something about telling stories to kids that appeals to me so much more than telling stories to grown-ups, I think. It impacted me so much having books that I could escape into because I grew up in a really small town and I didn't feel like it was a very exciting place to be. So I always thought, that other places and other people had so much more exciting lives, and books were the way that I kind of became acquainted with other places and other, I guess, more exciting lives than the one I thought I was living. So that's why I decided to write books. I think I always had a story to tell, and people didn't always want to listen because I was a kid that talked a lot. So I started writing them down, and I loved putting words onto paper, and I'm still the same way now. Self-isolation is probably harder on kids than it is on grown-ups for some reason. At least in my family, I think it's harder on my kids. So my focus has been right now being there for my kids and trying to keep them occupied and happy and healthy, and trying to balance that with some creativity because that's what makes me happy. So family and kids is first and foremost, and then trying to exercise some creativity. And I don't always find that I'm writing every day, certainly, but that's not that unusual. I don't write every day anyway, generally. But if I'm doing something creative, if I'm beading, if I'm drawing or trying to draw, or if I'm just doing something that kind of gets that creativity flowing, I think that helps me feel better and more stable. So writing, being creative, and first and foremost, being a mom and taking care of my family. I'm kind of an introvert. I tend to stay to myself a lot. I'm a little shy. So I think people would be surprised to know that when I was young, I ran away and joined the circus, which is a little bit of an exaggeration. But I grew up in a really small town where nothing happened, but the circus came to town. And I talked my mom into driving my best friend and I into town for the day because I grew up about a half hour outside of a really small town. And she drove us in, and we snuck onto the grounds where the circus was setting up. So we snuck in and we were exploring and trying not to get caught, but we were kids, we got caught. So we got caught by the kindest person who actually talked to us for a little bit and then asked us if we wanted to work there while the circus was in town. And of course we did. So once we got our parents' permission, we spent the next, I think, week that they were in town helping out wherever they needed help, exploring and watching them perform and watching them behind the scenes warming up. And I learned how to make cotton candy, which was kind of cool. But it was my first, the most exciting thing that happened to me, I think, at that time. And it made me want to follow my passion and follow my dreams. So I think it made a big impact on me that I saw these people who traveled all over and got to go to different places and do these exciting things. And I felt that my life was pretty unexciting. So it inspired me to kind of follow my own path, I think. For me, the most difficult part of being a writer is probably the revision process when I'm working on a book. I like sitting down and getting the first draft down. I find it, it's exciting. You can work on your book and you can get it all written down, but it's going back to it after and doing all the editing process of cutting out all the stuff that's not working, trying to figure out what's not working, how to make it better. And it can take such a long time, and it's repetitive because you have to read your work over and over and over and keep cutting things and keep adding things. And I find it really difficult because my strong point is definitely not editing my own work. So luckily I have friends, writer friends, who read my work and give advice. I have editors and my agent looks at stuff. So thankfully I have people who aren't as close to the work as me that can help. But I do find that revising, it's really, really hard to go back and you have something that you created out of nothing, and to cut it is really difficult. So I think that's the hardest part for me. The best part of being a writer is when you actually have a book and the book is out there and you hear from a kid that they really loved your book. That has to be the greatest feeling in the world, because we work in such isolation. We're so, I'm in my studio right now. My desk is actually behind the camera, but we work in a bubble where it's just us for so long, and then there's editors and everybody else. But once it's out in the world, it's sort of out of our hands. So when somebody connects with the work and comes back and says it meant something to them, or that they loved it, or that they connected with it, or that they related to the characters, it's so meaningful to writers to hear this feedback from readers that they got it, that they loved the book, that they read it again, that they recommended it, that they related to the character, that they saw themselves in it. Like, that is a huge reward beyond anything I could have ever imagined in being a writer, that, the readers would tell me that they loved my book. That's such a huge thing, and really is the most exciting, best part of being a writer, for sure. That's a really tough question for me. I mean, I think encouraging your kids to read, okay, so I'm talking about picture books right now. Reading with your kid, reading with your students. I know that even in high school that I've had teachers tell me that they read my picture books to kids, or they sit down and they read one of my novels to their class. And just, there's something about the act of reading with your students or your kids that I think makes a bigger impact than just having them go read themselves. There's something about sitting down and reading to kids that I think is really impactful. This book, Just Lucky, came out recently, and it's a novel about a girl in foster care. And I love this book because, she's just a strong, awesome character, and I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed writing it. I don't know. Okay, if you've read this book, He Who Dreams, the companion book is actually coming out in September, and it's called Dreaming in Color. I kept having readers of He Who Dreams ask me what happened to John's sister. And once I stopped writing He Who Dreams, I never really thought about it again. So the fact that I was being asked about this character who plays a kind of, a significant but a small role in He Who Dreams, people cared about the sister, and I thought that was really cool. So I actually pitched a book about John's sister. It's not a sequel, but it's a companion book. And so it's coming out in September, but it's actually going to be released electronically in June. So it's called Dreaming in Color, and it's a companion book to He Who Dreams. So it's about the sister of the boy that book's about. And then I have a picture book coming out next year called, I actually have to look, My No-Cum Sings Me to Sleep. And it's about a grandmother singing her grandchild to sleep. So it's pretty literal. It's a lullaby. It's just a quiet, read your kid to sleep lullaby of a grandparent singing their child to sleep. And I'm really excited about that one because it's quiet and peaceful, and I kind of liked the idea of that. So I have that coming out as well. Thank you so much for listening to me ramble endlessly. And, stay safe, read books. It's the greatest way to sort of ground yourself and get away from all the stress for a minute. Read great books. We have great Canadian books. This YouTube channel is a great way to discover new Canadian authors. I actually have a YouTube channel with my daughter called Canadian Book Heroes that I'd love you to check out, where we recommend Canadian content, read. And I hope everybody's doing well. Keep reading. If you're a creator, spend some time creating, read, write, draw. Just do the things that make you happy and that make you feel better. And we will get through this. So stay safe, stay well, and thank you so much.